Hey, what's going on, famous? Coach Michael. I'm back with another awesome video. And I know it's been a minute, but I've been working on some things for the channel, guys. But if you're new to the channel, my name is Coach Michael. And on this channel, I help you live with intention and with purpose. So if you're interested in either one of those things, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell and select all so you don't miss the next time I go live or the next time I upload an awesome video just like this one. But today, guys, I want to talk about something that is very, very dear to my heart. And that is, you have to become the change that you want to see. You know, we all can look back at our lives and we can look back over our lives to see the different things that we have been through and how it has affected us. But I just got off the phone with my cousin not too long ago, and me and him, we were talking, and he's a barber, he cuts hair. And he said, man, you know, a lot of these youngsters, they really just don't get it. They don't understand. You know, I talk to them, but many of them, they don't really listen. And I told him, I said, man, they might not listen, but you still have to give them the wisdom and the knowledge. And eventually that seed will blossom into what it needs to be. But at the same time, you don't have to try to convince them. You just have to make sure that you plant the seed. And so I began to elaborate and talk about myself and where I come from, my background. Many of you don't know that I was adopted as a child. And I didn't meet my biological mom until I was 16 years old. So I grew up with, you would consider my stepmother and my stepfather. You know, they're still my parents till this day, but many people would look at them as step, you know, since they're not they're not actually your biological parents, all right? So these people, they raised me to the best of their ability. And different things happened when I was a child. You know, a lot of different things. I took some verbal abuse. I also took some physical abuse. In different ways. And I don't walk in hatred. I don't walk in animosity. I don't walk in anger towards them or anybody else. Now, it was a point in time where different stuff happened in my childhood. And even outside of the home, there was things that I experienced that caused me to have a different perception towards life. You know, being promiscuous and you're being young and you're doing certain things and other children are introducing you to things that you're not supposed to be introduced to. This starts to open your mind up to other things. You begin to get curious about those things, and y'all know what I'm talking about. So I ain't really trying to, you know, for the sake of the tube, I'm just gonna keep it right here. All right. So you begin to be curious about things. You begin to kind of wonder about things. And I went through life like that. For so long, I went through life, you know, different kids are introducing me to certain things I shouldn't have been introduced to. And this led me down a downward spiral because I lost my way. I was already dealing with enough stuff, and they had no idea. So that stuff just piled on top of this stuff, and that stuff piled on top of this stuff. Next thing you know, I had this big old ball of confusion that I was just walking around with on the inside of me. And as I got older, it began to come out in ways that I didn't really understand, or that I could not articulate, because I did not come to myself. I have not, you know, as some people say, I didn't come to the realization of who I was. I didn't understand who I was. So therefore I gave into what was imparted into me during those instances in my life when I was a child, in my teenage years. I began to be a womanizer, you know, looking for women, trying to do doing that, and then dealing with, you know, drugs to try to cope with the pain. You know, some alcohol, a lot of the movies with the stuff on there. I had to start watching those. And eventually, I just started going through all of these different ways to try to suppress my true emotions, because that's how I felt that I could deal with the pain. But what I was doing was I was feeding that big ball of confusion on the inside of me. I was feeding that big ball on the inside of me. And before I met my wife, I went through some instances where I had some kids before I should have had kids. I'm grateful for them, but I had them before my wife came. I should have waited on the promise, but I did not wait on the promise. Why? Because my pain pushed me to being in a relationship with somebody I shouldn't have been in. And that's a whole nother video I may have to do for another day, so people can really understand what it means to become whole before they get with somebody else to try to make themselves whole. You need to become a whole first before you find somebody else to complete you. All right? Two halves doesn't make a whole. Two wholes make a whole. We'll talk about that later on. All right. But it wasn't until I actually met my wife till I began to go through my changes. I began to really go through the self-development, because I couldn't be a husband and still think the same way, still do the same things I was doing, because she depended on me to become a leader. Becoming a husband or in a relationship as a wife, that is a calling. That is something that not everybody is able to do, and that everybody will be able to do because they don't understand what's required. It's not you just getting with somebody and you serving them and this. No, it's you leading by example, and it's you sticking with somebody to build something. But if you haven't built yourself up, you can't help anybody else build anything. You have to begin to build you up first before you can get into a relationship and do the things that you're trying to do and have the white picket fence and all that. And that's another video once again. So I had to really go through my self-evaluation process, and I had to become the change that I was desiring to be. You see, I saw a lot of men out here doing things that I knew wasn't right. I saw a lot of men cheating on their wives. I saw a lot of men out here working long jobs and barely spending time with their families. And I thought this is what a man was supposed to do. I thought a man is supposed to work long hours. I thought he's supposed to, drive this nice truck and talk about how much money he got in the bank. I thought that was a part of what it was. But then I started to really think about it. That stuff made me feel uncomfortable. It made me feel like that I didn't belong. And I realized that I did belong, but just not in that group, just not in that circle with the other guys. I had to find my own tribe. I had to find like-minded individuals to connect myself with, right? And that's what I began to do. If I wanted to be the change that I wanted to see, if I wanted to be the change that I wanted to see, I had to first begin to look at myself and seeing what I'm surrounded by, what I'm hanging around, the examples that are around me, and the examples that I picked up even as a child. Because even as a young boy, we are taught as young men, if you're a man, watch this, I want you to hear this. We are taught to be tough, to be strong. Get up. That didn't hurt. Wipe yourself off. We're taught, don't cry. What you crying for? You better stop crying. We taught all that stuff. We're not taught as young men how to really become one with our emotions, because it's looked at as being feminine. It's looked at as not being a thing that men do, right? And there's no reason why I should have been trying to be a man even as a teenager or a boy anyway. I should have been being cultivated to understand how a man needs to be, right? It's more than this preconceived idea of what a man should be. And so I had to really push away from the narrative. And if you're a woman watching this can apply to you as well in the same fashion, only just for the opposite sex. I had to make sure that I pushed away from the narrative of what it looked like to be a man, what it looked like to be a husband, what it looked like to be a friend, what it looked like to even be a business owner. Whatever it is, I had to push away from that preconceived notion, because you don't want to partake in something that has been a science lab rat. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to partake in it. I know y'all seen the movie Nutty Professor, where in the movie, the rat got a hold to the stuff and the rat got really, really big, and some things happened when that rat got big. Now, if you don't know what that is, look up on YouTube, type in Nutty Professor rat scene, and it'll pop up, okay? And so basically, that's what ended up happening. That's what ended up happening. That's what will happen. People will end up being a lab rat experiment, and it will go all wrong if we don't catch on to it, all right? So I began to push back. I began to read more books about more personal development. More than anything, I began to pray. I got more into my word. I got more into getting accountability. I'm not talking about just people around you, but I'm talking about, pastors, healthy pastors with healthy marriages and healthy relationships. Surrounding yourself with them. Surrounding yourself with friends who are healthy, not toxic, not always talking about drama and nonsense, And once I started to surround myself with these people, I started to really see myself in a different light. I didn't look the way I didn't look the way that I look now, because if you'd have saw me then, you'd have been like, man, you don't look nothing like. I had big gauges in my ear. I'm talking about I had gauges the size of a nickel. I forgot, like it was close to a half an inch. I had big gauges in my ear. I had a lip ring. I had a tongue ring. You know what I'm saying? I had an eyebrow ring, right? I had all these different piercings because I was not in touch with myself. I was not in touch with who I was. I was starting to look like, I was looking more like the thing that I didn't want to become, right? I was not becoming the change that I wanted to see. I was looking like the thing that I wanted to not be like, because I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't strong enough to pull away from the idea of what I thought I should look like or who I should be. So once I came to myself and I found out that, hey, you are this, you are that, I started reading more books. I started coming across YouTube channels talking about personal development. And I started looking at who I was. I'm like, you know what? I got a story to tell. If I'm so busy fitting in and blending in, how will I be able to talk to somebody else to help them understand things differently in their lives? You know, it's somebody else out there that's just like you that have dealt with the same thing or are dealing with the same thing that you're dealing with. But guess what? If you keep dealing with your experience in a negative fashion, then they're going to keep dealing with their experience in a negative fashion. So I had to become the change I want to see. So if I want to see change in other people's lives, I got to be willing to first change myself. You see, we got a lot of people out here right now trying to help people and they're not qualified for it because they haven't overcame that obstacle, right? And that doesn't mean that it won't come back to try you again, but you have to let them know how you were able to overcome, you know what I'm saying, that obstacle at hand that was trying to keep you back. You got a lot of drug addicts out here right now still doing drugs and trying to talk to somebody else about not doing drugs, but they still doing it. You can't be an example like that. The only way you can be an effective example is only if you've been through the trial and error to become where you are right now today, and people can actively see it. The Bible says you would know them by their fruit. That means each and every seed produces after its own kind, right? There's no way you're going to plant an orange tree. There's no way you're going to plant an orange seed and get an apple. It just doesn't go that way. So that, and I want to put it in these terms so you understand it. If I'm an author, I can talk to other authors. But at the same time, if I'm not an author, how can I talk to another author about something? I ask for advice, but I can't give them advice. You see what I'm saying? So you would know the seed after its own kind. And that's one thing we have to do even when it comes down to being on our personal development journey. You can't get advice from everybody. Stop getting advice from all these so-called gurus and all these people that's online. A lot of people are doing stuff just to make money. A lot of people are doing stuff just because they want to have a voice. They went through stuff in their childhood, and now that they have a platform, they trying to run it up just so they can get all the attention, notoriety on them. And you know nothing about these people. Sometimes the people that you need to connect to are right there literally around you. You need to connect with them first. Because if you're still in a broken place where you're not whole and you're not healed yet, then everything is going to look attractive to you. Everything is going to look attractive. Everything is going to look a certain kind of way, and it's going to glisten. It's going to glisten before your eyes. But once you get to that point where you begin to get whole, you start to work with mentorship around you that you know can help you and it's qualified, that's when you'll start to see all the scams and you'll start to see stuff online that don't look right, and you'll be able to just throw it out the door. You won't even accept it. Right? You won't even accept it. So whoever's watching this video, and I want you to put down in the comments, if you made this far, put down in the comments, I've made it. And I've made it, and I'm going to be the change that I want to see. I want you to put that in the comments below. All right? And share this video with somebody who needs to hear this video. Share it with somebody. Show somebody. Let somebody listen to it. If it's going to help empower somebody else and you know somebody needs this message, don't sit on this message. Don't just hold it for yourself, but share it with somebody else. All right? So that's pretty much all that I had to share in this message. I can go on and longer, but we'll come back and we'll talk about some other things about how to really go through your personal development journey, how to really work on yourself, how to really get to a place where you can become whole, where you can begin to find yourself through all the clutter. I mean, through all of your past, through all of your emotions. There is a you underneath all of that. You know, in spite of what it looks like, you may feel like that you can't accomplish nothing. You might feel like that you lagging back. You might feel like that you last in everything. But when I tell you, the moment you find out what your strengths and your abilities are, and you come to yourself and you really become that change you want to see, because many people, they go about it wrong. See, if you live with purpose, if you live a purpose-filled life, then that'll help you accomplish a lot more and become what you want to see, rather than you trying to just become it by yourself, if that makes any sense. Purpose will help you become it, right? But before you can actually find that purpose, you have to really find yourself. You have to get some counseling, get some therapy, get some coaching. There'll be a link in the description below if you need me as a coach. There's all kinds of resources out here for you to really develop yourself on a higher level. So don't cheat yourself, because there's so much potential that's locked on the inside of you. But you have to be willing to go and search for it and dig. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to feel good all the time, but it is worth it once you see the results that it will produce. I'm telling you, I'm not where I am today by accident. I worked to get to where I am. I stopped making excuses. I got rid of my past pains and my past hurts, and I talked to somebody about those issues because I wanted to be the change that I wanted to see. And sometimes you have to get so fed up with you till you begin to make the necessary changes. But hey, y'all, that's all I have for this video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell and select all so you do not miss next time I go live or the next time I upload an awesome video just like this one. So until next time, fam, remember that you were created to be more than average, but you were created to be dope. I'll see y'all next. Peace. Be the change that you want to see.